Good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. Yes, hi to all my knowledge-seeking comrades, to my podcast that's here to bust myths, crush stigma, and spread more than just positive vibes. Get ready for a healthy dose of education and laughter as we embark on a mission to tackle HIV/AIDS with the power of conversation. I'm your trusted host, Dion Dusty McNeil, the dynamic Gemini of enlightenment and leader of giggles. So strap yourself in because this ain't your cis health class. It's time to dive deep into the world of HIV/AIDS and make those taboos vanish into thin air. We're flipping the script, turning up the volume, and tearing down the walls of ignorance. This isn't just a lecture, it's a party of knowledge, with a sprinkle of humor to keep things spicy. On this show, I'm going to share authentic stories, bring on awe-inspiring guests, and have conversations that'll leave you saying, wow, I never thought of it that way. We'll debunk misconceptions, celebrate the triumphs, and empower you with the tools to smash the stigma surrounding HIV/AIDS. I believe in the power of single conversation to change lives. And hey, if I can make you snort laugh while we're at it, even better. I know I'll do it for myself. From discussing cutting-edge research to dishing out practical advice for a healthy lifestyle, my guest and I got you covered like a well-fitted glove. Because when it comes to destigmatizing serious topics, laughter is my secret weapon. Get ready for some hilarious moments. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Sorry, not sorry. Together, let's create a world where everyone feels supported, informed, and confident about their sexual experience/health journey. Importantly, to share those experiences and journeys with others. So grab your headphones, spread the word, and join us on this remarkable adventure. Hopeful and Victory Talks, the podcast, is about to take off. Destination, a world without HIV/AIDS stigma. So fasten your seatbelts because it's going to be one heck of a ride.
While you're out there, looking for Mr. Right or Mr. Right Now, as you get to know each other. Most definitely before you, even after you become one, or add a little one. Never stop talking about ways to protect yourself and your partner from HIV. Keep the conversation going at cdc.gov/actagainstaids.
So as many of you probably know, I originally started Hopeful and Victory Talks as a video vlog. Back in 2018, I just moved back to Bloomington, Illinois from Arizona, and my gosh, bless my soul, because that was an experience. I had a really eye-awakening moment, and I knew that I just wasn't prepared to live out of the state. So I decided to move back in my apartment, and luckily my lease was still available. No one moved into my apartment, and I was thankful for that. But I really came to the senses of, what do I do next? Like, what's for me next? And I just, got back from Arizona, and previous to that, I was in a band, and I, abandoned or left my band and decided to pursue this. And now I'm back here in Bloomington with the bass guitar, some things, my dog, and a lot of journals, books too. I sat there for maybe about a week or two, and I was like, okay, well, I know I want to get back in the gym and work out, so I got back into that routine, and that helped me get my head straight and kind of get the energy moving in what I was wanting to do with myself. And out of nowhere, I was approached by Peoria Health Solution, which is an organization, health facility down in Peoria, and that's where I was getting my treatment at, even though I stayed in Bloomington. I just like driving over to Peoria, something to like break up the mundane. But I was reached out to PHS regarding if I wanted to talk about my HIV story publicly. And I think a lot of that came on because at the time when I got back, I was talking to this guy. I'm just going to refer to him as Rick. Rick. I'll just say Rick because I don't want to say the full name. But Rick was essentially, a summer fling. It was summer emotion. It was summer love. And it didn't work out once I left. And I came back. We decided to be friends, but it was sort of rocky. It was kind of tricky to navigate that sort of dynamic after that because we both felt very deeply for each other and we had a lot of emotions that went unsaid and ultimately led one of us resenting the other person. You can take your guess who that person was. Rick essentially threw out the idea that I would be interested in something like that, and I honestly wasn't sure if I was, but I felt that I had a voice. I felt that I didn't feel ashamed about my stigma, and I was talking to people about my HIV at that point in my time, at that point in my life, pretty regularly, and I decided to say yes. And if you go to my YouTube page, you can see that there's an event on there called The Artist Alive. That was actually the event that I was at. Not only was I giving my speech on, or giving my word on my HIV journey at that point in time, but after that, I got to sing in the lobby. And yes, I was pitchy, but I have fun just really expressing my voice and expressing myself. And I got to meet a lot of people who really felt moved by my story. About a month later, I was approached by the Pentagraph newspaper and another individual that does the World AIDS Day visual light ceremony, which happens in like Peoria, Bloomington, and Galesburg. That's also ran by Central Illinois Friends, another nonprofit. This is a nonprofit in Peoria, but both of them approached me. They wanted me to give a speech on just an uplifting speech on my HIV experience. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. I love sharing my story and what I'm learning about people living with HIV and what I'm learning about living with HIV myself too. And the other individual was from a newspaper who wanted to talk about the significance of World AIDS Day, which is December 1st. And its significance to me as I live out my life in the way that I deem healthy. And before I said yes, I contemplated a lot. Initially, I was not really prepared to do this because this means that I was going full-blown ego public with my HIV status. And I had not done that. My family knew, my friends knew, and that was about it. But people who didn't know of me, who may have seen me at work, who may have seen me in passing, they didn't know that, right? And I went to two friends, Blair and Bethany, and they are my mama bears. They were my support system away from home. I can always go to them if I'm ever experiencing something. And they are there with the real, not what I want to hear, but the real, as well as Louisa too. I don't want to forget the other mama bear. There's three mama bears. Don't mess with neither one of them because they will mess you up. I'm about to curse. But I go to Blair and Bethany. This is before I knew Louisa. And I was telling them about this opportunity with the newspaper. And they were like, well, what do you feel? Are you thinking about the consequences long term? What can this do if you do this publicly? Are there going to be repercussions? Are there going to be people who are going to come after you because you're now public and they may not know about your status? And these are a lot of things to consider because at the time, Illinois was deemed a HIV criminalization state. And after I did do the article, I just want to get to that point. There were a few people that came into my Facebook inbox and blackmailed me to try to get money because they thought just because I was featured on this article that I had racks. I did not have racks. I still had a 9-to-5 and still hustling and struggling at the same time. And back up, I sat on it and I thought about it and I came to my senses of, is this, at first it was a little bit of a stroke of ego when both of those people came, but then when reality set in that this is going to stick with me for the rest of my life until I die, I was kind of like, okay, let me make sure that this is something I really want to do. And I said yes to both of them. And before you knew it, I was at the World AIDS Day Vigil giving another word. And that is also available on my YouTube channel. And then I did an interview with Paul Schweit at the Pentagraph, the Bloomington newspaper Pentagraph. And that too was published on the newspapers on December 1st, 2018. I have a copy of it if you'd like to see it, but you can find it online. Unfortunately, there is a paywall, but I think Paul can slide me a free copy to access. If you're out there, Paul, I need a copy of that again. Just email me. Afterwards, things started to get really quick and fast. And remember that Rick guy I was telling you about who was a little bit resentful? There was a particular conversation that we had actually the first week of December 1st. I'm not sure if Rick felt resentful, he felt jealous, or maybe he felt like he needed to be the person that was in the spotlight. But Rick approached me and we talked about all of the things that was happening, and I told him, I said, hey, I have this really great idea. I want to make a YouTube channel where I just talk about my experience living with HIV. And Rick was like, that's silly. Why would you do that? That doesn't make sense. You can't make money off of talking about HIV. And I in that very moment, I was like, wow, why would you say that? You know, why would you want to put me down when I'm finding such joy, such pleasure, such expression in me existing with HIV and thriving with HIV, because it's allowing me to not only talk about my experience living with HIV, but it's allowing me to express myself musically, poetically, artistically, creatively, humbly, and sternly. It's helping me create systems around my life. Of course, he didn't know all those things, but you don't need to know all those things to not be a mean person or to be a vindictive person. But I think he was resentful because I cried a little bit. I'm not going to lie, I cried. I called my mom after and I let her know that I told Rick this and Rick had to say this. And one part I didn't mention actually in that conversation with Rick, which I thought was kind of strange, and I still find it strange today, was when Rick had said that portion of the conversation, he then went on to say, you know, he's like, I don't understand. Like, I'm about to drop it. I'm about to drop it like it's hot. But I mean, honestly, yeah, this is my podcast. Like, it's spicy here. So basically, the organization that he worked at, he worked primarily with Black populations. And he goes on to lament that, you know, the people that we serve, Black people don't always trust me because they think I'm this white guy who's coming in and introducing these, you know, trying to test them and see if they have HIV and call people out. And he just lamented on the fact that Black people didn't trust him. And that's true. Some Black people just don't trust some white people, and vice versa. But I thought it was just so strange that was brought into the conversation while he was also defeating. He was punching down on, you know, me trying to get advice from him. And I tell my mom this, and then I go to my mentor, and my mentor was like, hey, don't listen to that. That's just nonsense. You know, that person's probably going through what they're going through, this, that, and the third. You have to do what's right for you and what feels good to you and what makes you happy. Like, don't listen to that person. It just sounds like narcissistic. I didn't want to say the other word, but it was very narcissistic and manipulative and harmful. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And honestly, I haven't heard, well, take that back. Rick has, from that point, probably up until the end of 2019, was calling me very, very intoxicated, wanting to come over at my place and stay the night. I mean, it was so weird. And it got to a point where I honestly blocked Rick everywhere. I removed every account that I was following so that the only way that Rick could contact me was through email, because it was so freaking annoying, even though they had a spouse in that last call. And I did let that person know that hey, this dude's been in my DMs and I need you to like do something about it because I'm getting tired of it. That's your man. He's not mine. And I don't want him at all. And so, after that, he disappeared into the pages of time. But I went on and I started to sit and write and journal the structure of my YouTube channel. What should I call it? And at the time I was in my speech, I had ended both, a lot of them with staying hopeful in victory and harvesting in victory and healing in victory. A lot of these affirmations that I got from a really great friend who I actually will do another episode on because he's such a great guy. And I think history deserves to know the type of person that he is. Nonetheless, I was like, I like hopeful in victory. And also because it says HIV. And that's sort of the abbreviation for what you all see today. So I started to work on my scripts for my YouTube channel. I was editing on my phone. I was editing on this app. I think I did not uninstall it. I still have it on my phone today. It's called Power Director. And at the time, I didn't have like a subscription to Premiere Pro because I was broke and I was struggling and I didn't really have money like that. And I was like, no, I'm going to record it on my phone because my camera quality is great. I'm going to record it with my Tascam. I'm going to edit it in Power Director, and I'm going to make me a vlog. And if you look back at the early ages of the Hopeful and Victory videos, the quality of video is not the greatest, but the content surpasses it. And it was with intention that the content be educational, inspiring, hopeful, and also destigmatize HIV. Because the one thing I learned about going through the first three, the two events and then the newspaper was that talking about my HIV story was releasing. It was healing, in fact. Something about just speaking and talking about my growth through who I am. Like they say, you never really are able to tell a story if you're still living through the story itself. I don't know. I beg to differ. I think I play the devil's advocate. I think you can share a little bit of the story and reflect on what it is you're learning now. Because as humans, we're ever evolving. We're always changing. And that's very significant. But importantly, talking about my story and my HIV status and talking with other people, my friends and strangers that I've met across the state of Illinois, Hopeful and Victory Talks allowed me to connect with community in the north and the south part of the state of Illinois, the east and west, and really tap on the shoulders of organizations that are really doing the work to support people living with HIV, whether that's be through transportation costs, telehealth, medication assistance, rent and gas assistance, resources, guides, being a supporter, maybe being a mentor, finding support groups, showing resource pages, enlightening folks with information that brightens their future. And I wanted to be that example when I started Hopeful and Victory Talks. I wanted to show that it's tough. It's never easy. I think there are a lot of episodes on there where I am crying when I talk about some of that stuff because some of the stuff I was still like coming on the other end of it. And like I said, talking about it was kind of releasing in a way in which I kind of wrapped the bow around a lot of the stuff that I was going through. Ultimately, I wanted to be authentic to myself. I wasn't really trying to prove anything by making those videos. I wasn't trying to make a quick buck. I was just trying to be a better version of myself. And because I was doing that, and I was doing that loudly and proudly, and I still do that today, a lot of good has come my way. And a lot of bad too. But I always look at the good because Hopeful and Victory Talks, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's going to keep evolving and changing. And it's going to be beautiful every step of the way. You're going to be here, a part of the journey that I'm living in this human experience. I'm up for a beautiful challenge, if you ask me. But that was the start of Hopeful and Victory Talks. I really was pushing things like it was solo. All that stuff, the Facebook, the Instagram post. I mean, I would be at work advocating about it, talking about it, sharing my passions. I had business cards. Then I started to get into the music scene and singing, and I would share my business card and say that I'm an advocate. And I really started to realize that, oh my gosh, like I'm two different people. I'm this HIV advocate and I'm this artist. And I never really got to the point where I married those identities because they intersected, if I can talk right, they intersected quite significantly because I was showing up as me. And the songs that I was singing were stories out of my diary and stories out of my life. They weren't made up. These were really hard moments. I was crying, recording Hopeful and Victory Talk videos, and you can ask the producer. When we were recording songs, I would be crying in the booth, and he would be like, okay, it's time to get it together, like, feel those emotions, but, sing it. And as a person who has a mother that is a Cancer, I am also emotional. I have a lot of air sign in me, in my chart, but I also recognize that my emotions have carried me far, and my emotions make me human, and it's what fuels Hopeful and Victory LLC and Hopeful and Victory Talks, the podcast. I don't want to keep going on and on. There are plenty of things that I would love to talk to you all about, but I'll just stop there and let you know how Hopeful and Victory Talks came to be. I hope you continue to listen to my podcast. If you aren't following me, you can follow me on my social media platforms via TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I go live with HIV News Report every Monday at 7 a.m. Be on the lookout for new content that I'll be releasing. But if you prefer to listen to the podcast, this is a monthly podcast that will talk about everything under the sun. Hopefully, not too much, but respectfully. Thank you so much. I love you all. Bye. Oh, say Hopeful and Victory. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to say my slogan. Bye.
Hope is a spiritual mechanism that needs to be fed each day, even in a system that is flawed. We always find a different way. Thank you.
If you enjoyed that original poem by Shatrice, you can watch more of her tell her story in the Color of Vaccine Part 1 documentary. You can stream this on Hopeful and Victory on my YouTube channel, or you can check out my Facebook page to learn more.